There is now this growing international consensus that Britain, like the rest of the world, has to act early, do it decisively, and get our budget under control.
They cut between 11 and 12% across departments. Is that what you're going to do?
Well, clearly we are going to have to cut departmental spending, and we've been completely honest about that, in contrast to the other people who are contesting the British general election, the Labour Party. And we are clear also that the bulk of dealing with our budget deficit has to come from expenditure reductions, because in Britain the problem has been that we've been overspending even in the boom years, and that's what we have to get on top of.
They cut between 11 and 12% across departments. Is that what you are going to do?
Well, look, each country has to make its own decisions, and
have you made those decisions?
Each country has to make its own. What we've made a decision to do is to protect the health budget and to protect the international development budget.
But
something in
across the
this
other
week
budgets,
of all weeks, I think people can see is the right thing to do. And that's what we've done. Now, that obviously means that other budgets are going to have to take the strain, but we've been completely upfront about that.
So 11 to 12% across everything that you haven't ring-fenced?
Well, look, as I say, Sweden made its own decisions. But the striking thing that the Swedish finance minister said in his speech here at the LSE was that we're all in this together. He literally used that phrase. And the cuts that I've already identified are to better off people. So we've said you can't give tax credits to people earning over £50,000. You can't give child trust funds to people who are on higher incomes. That the public sector pay freeze is going to protect the lowest paid million. And the crucial thing I'm saying tonight is that these measures, some of them have to come in the coming financial year. So even if the election is in May, that's after the beginning of the April financial year, then we are going to have to make some in-year reductions in expenditure in certain programs, like the tax credits that are going to people earning over £50,000, because we have to act early to deal with this crisis.
And I want to come to that in a second, but the crucial thing you're not saying tonight is whether those cuts are going to be of that same Swedish scale. We're talking about 11% to defence, 11% to education, 11% to welfare. Is that what you're looking at now?
There are clearly very difficult decisions that need to be taken.
But are those figures in your head now?
The departments are going to have their budgets cut, except where we've been able to protect them and where there are clear frontline priorities. What I'm trying to do, of course, is protect the quality of the public services that people are receiving in their schools, in their hospitals and the like. But if you're asking me, are budgets going to have to be cut? Yes, they are.
And you're not disagreeing with what I've said. You're not contradicting what I'm saying.
I'm not saying that what they did in Sweden is exactly what we need to do in the UK, because different countries are different. But what I'm saying is that Sweden is an example of a country that has been able to act early, deal with its problems, get itself back on the right track, and as a result, in this current financial crisis, has a very much lower public deficit than the UK, faces not anything like the scale of the problems that we face in Britain, because in Britain we failed to fix the roof when the sun was shining.
You're talking about setting out, and what you've just told us this evening is that you will be prepared to make those cuts as soon as June if you get into power. You are talking about telling what? Care home workers, army, teachers, medical research projects, they're going to have to start cutting their budgets. And yet you won't actually name a figure or give us an idea of how badly they will have to do that.
What I've said is, if the government is not prepared to behave responsibly, then the next government will have to. And that will mean, in practice, in-year cuts if they don't fix the next budget, if they don't fix the next spending period.
But do you expect to make those cuts in June?
I think, well, what we need to do, if we form the government, say, in May, is we need to look at things that we can deal with quickly. So, for example, the child tax credits that are going to people earning more than £50,000, I just think that's a luxury the country can't afford anymore. Child trust funds that go to better off children, that's a luxury the country can't afford anymore. The enormous advertising budget, the huge consultancy budget, these are things you can do quickly. Now, public sector pay is not something you can do while there's a pay award actually there in force. So I've made it clear that that pay freeze for the better off paid public sector workers doesn't come in till 2011. And you want to stagger the measures. No one's suggesting that all of this happens on the day after a general election.
But if I'm
that would not be, that's not
home,
credible or responsible. What you've got to do.
Just a second, you know, a very concrete example. If I'm listening to this, I'm running a care home. How do I know that I won't have to shut my doors come July because of decisions that you will make 50 days after coming into government.
Of course, we are going to protect care for the elderly and other...
Or whatever, or the military, or teachers.
Of course, we are going to protect the quality of the services that people receive in this country, but we have to do these things more efficiently. And let me say this to the people you mentioned, whether it's people in the public services or indeed people in the private sector. If we do not deal with these problems, then interest rates will go up, jobs will be lost, this country will be plunged back into recession. That is the path that Gordon Brown leads us down, and we have got to get off that path.
George Osborne, thank you.
Thank you.